Now let's have a look and see how we can do vital checks on the field level. So we open up Tosca again, we go to the BI tab, and this time we're going to go database to database. So that would be that wizard over there that I'll select this time. But before I do that, just to show you an example of how we can customize this tests that we select in these wizards, I'm going to open up here my templates folder. You can see the exact ones that map to the same buttons up there, and these are field level. I'm going to choose database, and those are all the ones that are available here. So what I can do is, if let's say I was doing a min length test, let's expand that, and I want to create my own custom one. This is the current query that gets mixed with the actual database. So when you select your database from source to target, it parses it, it pulls the column, the schema, the table information, and then injects it into the SQL, and that's what gets generated, which gets run. This is just the template, but if you want to create your own, you could simply come over here, do a copy, paste, and I'm going to say custom with date as an example. And I can again just come to the exact one, open that up, and I can add my own custom query, for example, where date equals, and then you can use Tosca's dynamic expressions to actually select the type of date and the format that you're expecting to filter by for your query. So you can really customize these to however you want, and then that will be added to your query. But this will be included in the wizard later, as you'll see. So I've added that there. I can now carry on and say, let's go database, select the right button there, and I can go through the wizard just like I did for all the other selections of the different types of tests. This time I'm going to use my claims warehouse. I'm going to connect to it. It's a smaller database with not as many tables, but you'll see how we can do database to database comparisons. And in this case, I'm going to use the filter, but not the table names. I'm going to use the actual schema. So I'm going to compare the warehouse to the marked, all in the same table, but just for today's example. I'll add that. It's pulled 7 out of 20 for my source. For the target, we do the same, point to the claims, connect, and just like before, we would now use a schema, and I'm going to say data mart, add the filter, and this time it's 7 out of 20. I can go do my match. You can see these were not automatically matched. So here was where you can manually map them and then create a mapping file. But in my case, I've already created one ahead of time. So I'm going to load my mapping file here. And there's my example. And you can see now it's automatically mapped my tables from source to target, as well as the actual fields themselves. So what I can do now is I can go into here, hit next, and select the actual types of tests I want to do for each of the tables. So let's pick one that has a few more. So let's say, for example, for policy, these are all the fields, and you can see the actual character types as well, integer or characters or date and time, and then you can map them to the types of tests that you want. So let's say over here we had a min length test, and it's going to be for something like, let's have a look here, there's an ID. So you might want to do min length test for an ID. And you can click on that, and a max length test. And you would go through and you would select all the different ones that you want depending on what tests you want to run. And you can see there's the actual custom one I created and copy pasted, and now it becomes just a tick box in the wizard, and you can map that to the field that you want to run that test against. And you would go through and do the selection for all of them. There's a number of them out of the box, but you can also just create your own, and then they'll be available specific, and this will be customized to your business requirements from there. So what I'm going to do is not going to go through them manually. I'm just going to check all of them. If I ran them, they would fail, of course, but in this, because they don't actually map, but just so you can see the selection is pretty much the same as all the other wizards. We create our execution list so we can run them continuously by a build tool if we want. And we create our requirement set as well. So we can map them back to a business rules, and we can report on the business risk being covered. I'll hit the finish button here, and you'll see it's going, and now it's creating all of these. There's not many tables, so it's going to do it pretty quick. And just like before, we have our parallel blocks, and you can see there, you can run these now in parallel on this machine, depending on how you've set them up. I've set them up to 5 parallel blocks. It will run 5 at a time, and it'll go through all of them. So it's very useful when you have large numbers. But in this case, there's just a few, and just so you can see, I can click on the custom one that we created, jump to the actual test, expand that. This was generated by the template. The DSN and the connections are still parameterized, so we can control them. And there's my actual query here, and you can see source to target, and then it's included my where clause as well over there. So you can customize them however you like, delete them, the ones that aren't relevant, and just have the selection there that makes sense for your actual warehouse. So we saw database to database. I'll quickly go through and show you how you can see now a single database, and it would be quite similar, except now you would only get one selection. You can go through a warehouse, actual database, wherever your ODBC is, whether it's HANA, local, Hadoop. We use the ODBC connection. You could still use the DDL as well. In this case, I'm going to stick to this one, and you can go through and again select the different tables that you want to do. So in this case, I'm going to just come over here. Let's just say I'll filter it again by sales, add my filter, go next, and then you have all the sales schema or tables displayed here. And then just like before, you can go through and select the types of tests that make sense for your single database vital checks on field level. Again, I'm just going to select all of them, hit the next button here, map them back to an execution list and requirements, and you'll see again, it'll go through and generate these. And there's just 77 this time, and they can again run in parallel execution. So that was our vital checks on field level. Coming over here, and again, you can run these whenever it makes sense, whether it's early, whether it's a bit later in the stage, and you can set them up as needed.